أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Respected Musallin Kiram, respected brothers and sisters, welcome. Islamic Studies lesson number 44 today, inshallah. And this is the last lesson in the chapter of Zakat. Zakat is the chapter of Shahada, which is the first and second pillar. This is the third pillar we're covering. I know third pillar is actually fasting, but we've said that we've delayed that to closer to Ramadan, inshallah. So, bi'idhnillah, we shall finish that in due time before Ramadan. As you know, next lesson, following lesson, I won't be here, so will not be taking place. Same thing goes for. Actually, next lesson won't be taking place, and the following lesson will be taking place the week of 19th, which I think 21st of February, inshallah. As for Thursday's hadith class and Tafsir class as well, we're taking a small break for 2 weeks because I have to go. I'm going to Umrah, inshallah, tomorrow, so please make dua for me and forgive me for my shortcomings and my mistakes. I'm sure there are so many, so please overlook them in kindness, and inshallah I shall make dua for you, and please also try to make dua for me. The chapter for today is charity at the end of Ramadan, Fitrana, whatever you want to call it. The word is Sadaqatul Fitr or Zakatul Fitr. Both are used in the books of fiqh. Fitra is a word that we use maybe among the sort of Bangladeshi community, and I think some of the Urdu speaking community say Fitrana as well. Either way, it all refers to the same thing, and it is a particular type of sadaqah, charity, which is given at the end of the month of Ramadan, in time for Eid al-Fitr. In time for Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr is the one of the two Eids, and as we know, there are two Eids in Islam, the Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, and the weekly Eid is Yawm al-Jum'ah. And to invent new Eids and etc. is not allowed because the Eids have been specified by our religion. So what's it saying here? Sadaqatul Fitr, Zakatul Fitr is wajib. On who? On every, meaning someone who's not in slavery, free Muslim, who is legally responsible, who is mukallaf. The word mukallaf means legally has taklif upon them, responsible, has some sort of burden upon their shoulder. And that is why, recently I was having a discussion about the ayat that talk about لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها ما جعل عليكم في الدين من حرج, and so on. These ayat that say Allah will not overburden you with something more than you can bear. What are they talking about? Do these ayat mean that Allah will never burden any human being with more than they can bear? Then how come some people become over? Does that make sense? Aren't there people that become overcome by their burdens? Aren't there people that life becomes so difficult they end up dying, or often they become overcome by their debts, overcome by natural disaster, overcome by an illness? Does that make sense to you? Does that happen or not? Aren't there so many situations in which a person becomes overcome by life? So if these ayat mean, according to those who say, that it means that Allah will never put any difficulty on you more than you can bear, then this would be, wallahu alam, would be an incorrect translation. Because it goes against the reality of what we witness. Rather, what these ayat mean, and it is in takalluf. Takalluf means bearing responsibility. Allah will not give you the responsibility of. Allah will not put upon your shoulder a responsibility more than you can bear. In Sharia, in fiqh, we say someone who is mukallaf is someone who has legal responsibility. What that means is, when you are mentally and physically have not completed, have not become ready, Allah will not give you responsibilities. Allah will not demand from you that which is wajib and fard. But when you become psychologically and physically ready and able to carry out those tasks, then Allah will give you the task. So for example, someone who's not baligh, they're not obliged. Someone who is baligh, they are obliged. So someone who's baligh is usually somebody ready to take on those responsibilities. These ayat, they refer to the fact that Allah will not put any demand in our religion upon us which is more than we can bear. Does that make sense? Allah will not say pray 50 times a day, because that would be more than we can bear. Allah will not say fast 9 months in a year, or say 11 months in a year, because that would be very, very, very difficult. Allah will not say go to Hajj every single year regardless of whether you can afford it or not. Allah will not say that even if you're dying, then you still have to observe the normal rules of halal and haram. Allah says that if you're about to pass away, you're allowed to eat anything to survive, with the amount that is needed for you to survive. Any meat, any water, any drink, any fluid. Even if it is a haram substance, if someone is dying and the only food they have available is haram meat, they're allowed to have a small amount to survive. Just enough to survive. If they have no drink and they only have alcohol, they're allowed to have a small amount just to survive, not to have too much. So these ayat which talk about لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها إلا ما آتاها ما جعل عليكم في الدين من حرج. What are they talking about? They are talking about Allah will not give us a responsibility in our Islamic law which will be too much for us to burden. Does that make sense to you? And the word that is used is called لا يكلف. Allah does not give you responsibility. And the word here is when someone is mukallaf, when someone is of legal responsibility, age and situation. So there is that connection there. Furthermore, you might say, well, I'm not convinced. Furthermore, where does Allah say لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا? Where is that? Which surah is that in? Surah Baqarah. What is Surah Baqarah about? Rules and regulations. Correct? Isn't it? Surah Baqarah is one of the surahs in the Quran which talk significantly about the laws and regulations. Where does Allah say لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها سيجعل الله بعد عسر يسرا? Surah Talaq. What does Talaq talk about? What's that? Laws, rules and regulations. So in both the places, the context of the ayah is in the narrative, is in the discussion of legal legislation and regulations. So therefore, for it to mean that is clear. Because if it were to mean that Allah will never put anyone in any situation where they will become overcome, then we would say, how come someone gets drowned? How come someone... Does that make sense? Because that's a situation they're overcome. Physically, quite physically. How come someone falls off a cliff and they die? How come someone has cancer and they die from it? Because how come this Muslim was tested so much that he left Islam? All of these other problems, other questions come into it. And where did that start from? Because we translated it to mean wallahu alam, I could be wrong, inaccurately. And the accurate correction of translation of this ayat is that Allah will not put upon you a task in your religion more than you can actually bear. That could be from the fara'id, from the wajibat, from the sunan, from the haram, from the makruhat, and so on. Okay, I've had to go on a little bit of a tangent because I had this discussion recently and I thought I'd make that clear to you guys. And then if I'm wrong, then you can correct me. Okay. So, who is Sadaqatul Fitr and Zakatul Fitr and Fitra Wajib? Every person who is legally responsible, i.e. the age of bulugh and is Muslim and is aware. Meaning you're not mentally unaware, you're mentally aware. Because if you're mentally unaware, majnoon, required by the Sharia. Because what's the point of demanding a majnoon person to do something when they don't know what they're doing themselves? So Islam will not demand from a majnoon person, mentally unaware person to do something. So if someone is psychologically, mentally, medically unaware, if someone is not baligh, basically, they are not of age of puberty, then they would not be required, they're not mukallaf. So if you're Muslim, baligh and aqil, then you're mukallaf. Okay, so that's fine, we understand who the person is. How much money do they have to own to give the Zakatul Fitr or Sadaqatul Fitr or Fitrana? They have to possess a nisab. Just like when you give zakat, the normal annual zakat, you have to possess a particular amount, right, for you to be zakat eligible, zakatable, right? We spoke about this in our previous lessons, in lesson 40, 41, and etc. So not everyone has to give fitra. Who has to give it? Someone who possesses the nisab. And what nisab is this? 557 for hirmanu zakat. You have to give normal zakat when you have 350 pounds in cash, gold, silver, currencies, and etc., right? But when we talk about, that's called nisab, the quantum of zakat. This nisab we're talking about is not talking about the nisab of zakat. It's talking about someone who may not have 350 pounds or more in cash, gold, and silver. Rather, they may have the basics and other assets on top that add to that value. Meaning, when it comes to fitra, we count in excess goods that we possess, even if they're not in cash. So someone might say, hey, I don't actually give fitra. Why? Because I'm poor. Why? Because I haven't reached the nisab. We will say to that person, okay, how many extra pieces of clothing do you own? How many extra, extra phones or whatever, excess in your life? How much extra do you have more than your basic needs? They might say, well, I have 5 change of clothes. I have, 3 jackets. I have 3 pairs of shoes. I have X, Y, and Z. Whatever is above your basic need. For example, a person's basic need is that they may need 2 pairs of footwear. They might need 2 pairs of clothes, whatever. Whatever is excess from that is considered to be a value which add towards you become taxable by fitra. When it comes to zakat, the actual zakat, the annual zakat, we only count cash, gold, silver, and currency, right? And trade goods. But when it comes to fitra, we also include possessions that you may own, which are excess to your basic needs. Am I making sense here? When it comes to zakat, we only count certain types of goods, cash, gold, silver, trade goods. When it comes to fitra, we count anything that's above your basic needs. So now, for example, so that means the person paying zakat will naturally be richer than the person who's paying fitra. That means also that the person paying zakat will naturally pay fitra. But will the person paying fitra pay zakat all the time? No. You might have someone who's paying fitra but not paying zakat. Why? Because in fitra we include whatever goods you may own above your basic needs. So they can be poorer than the person who's paying zakat. Let me say that one more time. Everyone that pays zakat pays fitra, but not everyone that pays fitra pays zakat. Because in fitra we include goods that are above your basic needs, whereas in zakat we only count currencies, cash, gold, silver, and trade goods, and other currencies that you may own. So if someone possesses 350 pounds worth of goods above their basic needs, then they should be giving fitra. And I assume most people in sort of Western countries own that. If you count, for example, how many extra shoes you have, extra clothes you have, extra jeans you have, extra this you have, extra that you have, right? Your basic your things that you live with, above your basic needs, you'll find they easily add up to 350 pounds or more. Look, we're talking about it as if nisab is going to break your bank, or as if the Zakatul Fitr is going to break you. It's actually a small amount. It's about 7 pounds that you give. But we have to be clear because it's fiqh, isn't it? It's law. We have to be clear who has to pay it. So in summary, I can just say everyone in the UK, everyone in the West, everyone that's doing pretty well for themselves, everyone's not starving, everyone's not in poverty line, should be paying fitrah. But the actual calculation is that you are valued at 350 pounds, including all of your clothes and everything that you own above your basic needs. Or basic personal needs. I just explained that to you. Okay. It is mandatory. Now who has to pay Zakatul Fitr and Sadaqatul Fitr? You have to pay on behalf of yourself. As well as your child, you have to give Zakatul Fitr on behalf of them. As well as someone who owns slaves, of course that's not there now. Or, and you can also pay on behalf of your wife, unless the wife is going to give you on behalf of them. This is called the 7 pounds or 6 pounds or 5 pounds or maybe more somewhere or maybe less somewhere. Fitra, you give it on behalf of yourself and your children and those who are your dependents. Whoever depends upon you, if you're the only breadwinner, if you're only the income in the household, then you give it on behalf of everyone that's under your responsibility when it comes to financial expenditure. So that could be your parents sometimes. You're taking care of them, you're spending on them, they don't have any income of their own, so you should give it on their behalf as well. Children, if you should give it on their behalf. Wife, if she doesn't have her own money and give it herself, give it on her behalf as well. How much? 6, 7 pounds will be announced at the time of, what is it based on? It's based on a particular measurement called 2.2 kg of wheat or flour or sawiq, which is a mix of wheat and barley. So it is not mandatory on behalf, okay, now we'll delete that. The amount due is half a sa'. Half a sa', which is 2.2 kgs of half a sa' of wheat, flour or sawiq. Or one sa', so half a sa' is 2.2 kgs. So let me ask a question. If half a sa' is 2.2 kgs, how much is one sa'? There you go, mashallah, all mathematicians in here. One sa' is 4.4 kgs. This is a traditional measurement. So you can either give half a sa', 2.2 kgs of wheat or flour, or 4.4 kg of dates, raisins or barley, which equals 8 littles according to the Iraqi standard. Okay, some technical words there, not really relevant. You can either pay the value of 4.4 kgs of dates, raisins or barley, or 2.2 kgs of wheat. How much does that work out? Depends where you are. Depends where you are. If you're in Gaza right now, then you're going to pay a significant amount of money. They count in shekels, and shekels have tripled or quadrupled in terms of price. So it depends where you're giving the fitrah. So now if someone says, hey, because some people, Muslims, we get confused. Hey, how come Qurbani in somewhere is so cheap, but over there is so expensive? Because it costs more to buy it over there. Qurbani in Gaza, 1 cow, 2,000 pounds. 1 sheep, maybe 2,000, could be right, because there's nothing available. It's based on the price of the market that you're in. Whereas somewhere else, if you go and buy a sheep in the UK, it probably cost you 150 pounds, maybe 200 pounds, something like that. So depending on where you are distributing, but at the end of the day, most of us, if not all of us, have to pay that fitrah on your own behalf and on behalf of those who are dependent upon you financially. It is permissible to pay by monetary value of one of the above amounts. This is actually superior when one can find what he needs in times of ease. So basically, you can give it in money, or you can give it in actual wheat or barley and etc. But ultimately, what's better is better to give that which is most of needed. For example, in a country, it will benefit them more if you give them cash than you give cash. It will benefit them more if you give them the actual wheat than you give them the actual wheat. For example, in Gaza, it would benefit them more right now if you can actually get the wheat to them or flour to them, isn't it? Because they can't get humanitarian aid in there. You can send money by, for example, transfer, but actually getting that in there. So if someone can guarantee that we will get your fitra into Gaza, because we'll have very strong line of production when it comes to right. If someone can demand that and can confirm that, then even if it is more expensive, give your fitra to them, because they're giving them what they need more. It's not about saving money for us. Alhamdulillah, Allah has given you all enough. Allah has given us all enough. We try to benefit others the most, inshallah. The time in which Sadaqatul Fitr, when do you give Sadaqatul Fitr or Zakatul Fitr or Fitra? It becomes mandatory when Fajr comes in on the day of Eid al-Fitr. Meaning, if someone intends to give Fitra, but happens to die before Eid day, do they have to give Fitra? No. Do we have to deduct that Fitra from their wealth or not? No, because they weren't alive on the morning of Eid day. Meaning, it will only become incumbent wajib upon you, Muslim aqil baligh, on the morning of Eid day. What we usually do is we send it ahead, don't we? That's fine, because we're planning ahead, because we don't give it locally, we give it abroad. That's fine. But traditionally, if you are giving to your local community, it would be very easy for you to go and distribute wheat, barley, dates, raisins on the Fajr of the Eid day. But of course, we usually give it abroad, so we plan ahead, we distribute it, we send it beforehand, so that when the morning of the Eid day comes and you have woken up as a Muslim aqil baligh, Muslim who's mentally aware and is baligh as well, reached age of puberty, your duty is done, you're not delaying your wajib. Does that make sense? But when the actual time it becomes incumbent upon you, becomes due upon you, is on the morning of the Eid al-Fitr day, when the Fajr of Eid al-Fitr comes in. Therefore, if one dies or becomes indigent, faqir, before that time, or if one becomes Muslim or attains wealth, thereby possessing nisab, or is born after that time, then it is not mandatory. If someone dies before that time, no, Fitra, because they just missed that time. These are technicalities. No one would actually go into, but it's technically who is responsible. Everything is very clearly stipulated in books of law. It is preferable to pay it before leaving for Eid. So there you go. It's preferable to give it before Eid Salah because it would ensure that it's reaching the people that it's supposed to reach. Yet it is valid if one pays it beforehand or afterwards, although delaying it is disliked. Every person should pay to one indigent faqir person, even if two non-Muslim residents of Muslim lands, everyone should pay to one indigent person. Meaning don't give, distribute among many people. Not everyone pile it to one person and then they become rich thereby and are not deserving. We spoke about that in zakat anyway. One may not split it between two indigent faqirs, meaning every fitrah must reach, then one person should receive that amount, ideally. So it's a significant meal. If you're going to say, get fitrah now, £5, and then divide it between 10 people, everyone gets 50p each, then has anyone really benefited? Have they felt the Eid? Have they benefited? Have they enjoyed? So each person should receive a fitrah who is eligible to receive. Although there is a disagreement among the jurists on this matter. I mean, there is some disagreement on this, if you were to divide it, but ideally you should give it in a way that everyone receives a good amount of fitrah per head. It is permissible for a group of people to pay their combined Sadaqatul Fitr to one recipient according to a sound position. You are allowed to combine a few fitrahs and give it to one person. But again, remember this. Though it may be allowed, remember, just like zakat, if you keep on giving so many people fitrah to the same person, and then they add 7, okay, as in pounds, okay, and £8, and all everyone giving it to them, are they eligible to receive it or not? Has your Sadaqatul Fitr been fulfilled or not? No, it has not. So you have to divide in a way such that it's reaching poor people who are eligible to receive it, just like zakat, also Sadaqatul Fitr. That's the end of the chapter. Are there any questions? Yes, please. Yes, please.
So if you wasn't sending it abroad and you was handing the fitrah by your own hand, you should do it from Fajr Salah before Eid prayer.
If there is leniency in the matter, you can give it before. You can give it before, which is permissible. If you should be disliked to delay it though. But it's
before the Eid prayer has to be done.
Yes, on the morning Fajr of that day. Before, as you know, Fajr is usually first, and then Eid al-Fitr is maybe an hour or so afterwards, maybe 2 hours further, depending on which country you are. But it should be done by Fajr, after Fajr, before Eid Salah. But if, say for example, you happen to die before Eid day, then technically you didn't have to really pay it, but you still pay charity, so no one's losing, yeah. Yes?
If you miss the Fitra fast, what happens?
You just backdate it. Just give it to someone, give it to a charity organization with the intention of Fitra, Sadaqatul Fitr, and or maybe this Eid, just backdate the few years that you didn't give. So maybe you missed 5 years, just give it 5 times as much.
Is it best to give it locally or abroad?
Usually, if there is poor people in your neighborhood, then you should give it locally. But if there are more people who are more in need elsewhere, then you should give it to them. Or if there are people who are more dependent upon you, have a bigger right over you, who are further. Yes, Baisab.
Can you give it non-Muslim as well, or only Muslim?
This should be non-Muslim is not mentioned here. It's mentioned as dhimmi, someone who is living in a Muslim country under a Islamic protection and so on and so forth. So ideally you should give it to Muslims. Ideally you should give it to Muslims. Barakallahu feekum. جایز امرا خوازونه میلیا اخزونه فیتره دوات و خوختا فیتره اخزونه میلیا دوات تیکا سه جایز سه اگه دوات تیکا سه بعد امرا إلا بشید تمنا زن فیتره فایده تن دنیو یوسون تعرفوره تن منی عرف فیتره تن نفوا من جایز یتونه بعد شادان جد إلا وين امرا شادان for example maybe تنسى جونه فیتره میلیا دیله فوتش پاون تیش پاون اخلاق دیلا is جایز إن شاء الله.
What's the actual? You know, it's 350 quid. Well, what's the actual measurement? So for a different currency, say it was Bangladesh.
Okay.
What is the difference?
Okay, let me pull up the sub for you.
350 now, 50,000 Bangladesh.
No, he's talking about that. It's based on.
350.
Hold on. So if you go to a website like Islamic Relief, okay, obviously they are the specialists of it's charity, right? I think that's what they do. So if you go right, what is zakat and what is the nisab of zakat? Okay, so the actual amount, which is the back end of it, is 612.36 grams of silver. So what is the value of 612 grams of silver? In today's market right now is 4 pence. Okay, so the back end of it, the actual measurement of it is we rotate with silver. How much is 612 grams of silver worth? Today it's worth 350, next year it might be worth 450. So then nisab will be 450.
It's even cheaper abroad, so they pay this.
There you go. So yeah, if it's cheap, if silver is cheaper abroad, then it's based upon 612 grams of silver. Okay? Okay. Anything else?
Chef, you said about necessity. So it depends on where your excess is compared to your necessity. How do you determine what is excess from necessity? You said sometimes 2 shoes. But
Right, so
1 shoe is.
So you would be depending upon a person. For example, we're not expected to, if Allah has given us the tawfiq to live like cavemen, if Allah has given us the ability. So when I might need one for my smart shoes, one for my sports shoes, I might need, at least 2-3 shirts, 2-3 trousers. These will be basic necessities because these are on rotation. But we also know that in my wardrobe, there are certain clothes that I wear once a month, or once every few weeks, special occasions. Those bills for the walimas and for the Eids, right? Those are above basic necessities. So you can make a differentiation like that. Okay, barakallah feekum. I have to run to another program as well now. And also tomorrow after Fajr, I'm going to, inshallah, off to Al-Madinah, Al-Munawwara, the golden city of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then to Umrah, inshallah, on Tuesday. I'm Zayar, inshallah, agami khalki birashid bartaki, Noidin, shoto tarik pର୍ଯ୍ন্ত.
We miss Chef.
I will miss you guys as well, but inshallah, I promise, inshallah, I will make. And I think when we are coming together again, you'll feel good, inshallah. It'll be nice to see each other again, inshallah. And hopefully, I will come back with more, more iman and more more spirituality to share with everyone, inshallah. Inshallah. May Allah accept from all of us. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.